What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm D.Knight, and it's a make or break season.
Cause it's game time and I'm ready. Game time and I'm ready. Yeah, it's game time and I'm ready. Game time and I'm ready. Can't stop my hustle. No, you can't stop my shine. I ain't come to make no friends. I just came to get what's mine.
And we are back with the Dolphins here in Madden 20 as we enter Season 5. So far, this rebuild has been just pretty much disappointing. We were working our way and trending up in the last couple years, but last year we ended up going backwards with a 5-10-1 record. We have the worst offense in the NFL, but the second-ranked defense in the NFL. So we are pretty much kind of in between everything. We weren't good against the AFC East last year, so we really need to start picking it up against the Jets, the Bills, and the Patriots. We need to start winning. It's kind of a make or break year for Brian Flores and myself as a GM. So hopefully we're able to get a couple wins, possibly finish above 500, and hopefully make a playoff spot. But I do have some bad news, as this is going to be the last preview for the Dolphins heading into a season, as we are going into a Madden 21 franchise coming up probably either next week or the week after. And we're actually going to be switching gears a little bit. I'm not going to be putting all the games in here. I think we're going to sim through a season in one episode. We're going to be doing any playoff games, which will be an episode by itself, and then the off season as well. So it's going to be a little bit of a different season, but that's all because I want to get a Madden 21 franchise up here. And if you guys enjoyed this series, then head over to that series. Not going to be the Dolphins, sadly, but we're going to continue to keep an eye on this team and hopefully able to maybe make a dynasty out of it. But I do have some good news, as we have decided to hire Byron Leftwich as our offensive coordinator. He was terminated 2 years ago when Bruce Arians retired and Zach Taylor took over the Bucs. So we actually have the Bucs playbook and their offensive scheme. Hopefully that is able to really kind of pick up our offensive potential. I mean, it needs to be, because our offense was just hideous. Our defense kept us in every game. We couldn't win. And then when we did score a lot of points, our defense would allow a lot of points. Just not a very good season whatsoever. But what we need to do through this episode is we need to get through the preview and then head through the preseason and see if our offense is a little bit better this year, and maybe we can get through a season with some good wins and make a playoff spot. So what we need to do is take a look at this team. I mean, our offense, which currently stands at a 79 overall. We have some good playmakers here, but really it's going to depend on Trevor Lawrence and his development. He's been bad the past 2 seasons, and he's got that bust label starting to float by his name. But, I mean, 3rd year, he's got to be able to do it. It's a make or break season for him as well, because we need to win, and it's just that simple. On the defensive side of the ball, we are set. We have superstars everywhere, and then we have stars filling in the rest. I was hoping that we could get another defensive tackle because Lorenzo Neal's rookie contract is about to be up. But we might end up making an offer and just kind of keeping Chase Young on the left side, Wilkins on the right side, and Neal clogging up the middle. But we're going to start off this preview with the quarterbacks, as we always do. Our starter, Trevor Lawrence, now entering his 3rd year. He's 85 overall, but hasn't been able to put together any really good seasons. Last year, he had a QB rating of 86, 3,818 yards in the air, 15 touchdowns, 21 picks. Back-to-back year with 20-plus picks is not going to get it done. We need him to improve on his decision-making, and hopefully with the new scheme, he's able to dominate. Backing him up is rookie quarterback Dave Sands out of Buffalo. 6'4", 245-pound, 23-year-old. Last year for Buffalo, he was pretty good. 131.6 rating, 2,607 yards in the air, 27 touchdowns and 6 picks, but then also added 472 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. That's why we grabbed him in the 2nd round, 55th overall. Hopefully he's able to develop into a very key backup spot for us. Third on our depth chart is 4-year pro Tyree Jackson. Last year he didn't get any playing time, but in the preseason he wasn't very good. He had a 72 rating, 327 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. He needs to be able to clean that up if he has a chance at making this team and surpassing Dave Sands as our backup quarterback. And then we also have developmental quarterback Anthony Brown entering his 3rd year out of Boston College. He hasn't had any regular season time, and I mean his preseason numbers haven't been bad. Last year he had a 94 rating, 401 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. But his overall is just not where it needs to be. He's no longer practice squad eligible, so he might end up getting released. And now we switch gears to the halfback. So starting halfback Philip Lindsay entering his 6th year in the league. Ended up getting hurt last year, but he looked really good when he got the playing time. And he pretty much was the greatness of our running offense. He had 846 yards and a touchdown, but then also added 45 catches out of the backfield for 266 yards. Our offense was abysmal. I'm hoping this year he can get a few more touchdowns. Backing him up is 5th-year pro Nyheim Hines that we got from a free agency out of Indianapolis. He had 96 yards and 3 touchdowns and 5 catches for 82 yards. But we really needed a very good backup back because AMJ and Whitlow didn't necessarily look good. AMJ looked good, but he kept getting hurt. I think he's going to fill in very nicely as a supplement back to Philip Lindsay. And third on our depth chart is aforementioned halfback Anthony McFarland Jr., the 3-year pro out of Maryland. 188 yards on the ground, 24 catches, and 148 yards through the air. He is very dynamic. The only problem is he can't seem to stay healthy every time he gets a big workload. I really wish he could because he could be something special, but we're going to have to continue to wait. Fourth on the depth chart is Jatarvius Whitlow, the 2-year pro out of Auburn. I had very high hopes for him, but every time he gets playing time, it doesn't look like he just knows what he's doing. He has really good ratings, but he only had 113 yards, 1 touchdown, and then 12 catches out of the backfield for 105 yards. I really wanted this guy to develop, but each and every season I kind of feel like he is not going to get there. And then we have power back Trey Ragas, the 3-year pro out of UL Lafayette. This guy is our touchdown machine and will continue to be. He has 62 yards on the ground with 4 touchdowns and then 1 catch for 2 yards. Might end up giving him a bigger role if he continues to impress me, but that 66 overall just kind of scares me, but his running is way above that. And then we also have a developmental back in Deontay Swain, who's probably going to end up on the practice squad. But last year in preseason, which didn't get a lot of playing time, but this year hopefully he does. He had 44 yards and then 3 catches for 11 yards. This guy is a very good speed back, but his overall needs to kind of get better because we have a lot of people in front of him. Starting at fullback, we have rookie Eric Cannon, who he ended up getting in the 7th round, 200th overall. He's 5'11", 255 pounds, but he's a utility back, so I'm kind of excited to see what that really kind of brings along. Chandler Cox was a Pro Bowler. He was great. But Cannon had 20 yards and then 3 catches for 45 yards at Auburn. But really, we're looking at his blocking. If he's not able to do it, we might end up grabbing yet another fullback in the later rounds next year. Now let's head to the wide receivers as we have starting wide receiver Devontae Parker, who is going into his 9th year, but he's very good as he continues to put up 1,000-yard seasons. Last year he had 64 catches, 1,052 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Kind of want to see how he does if Trevor Lawrence can get it together, because I think he could be a very, very big playmaker for this offense. Number 2 wide receiver is Kiki Cudi. I was expecting big things from him last year, but I think the quarterback play kind of slowed that down a little bit. Last year he had 34 catches, 376 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He has very, very good attributes. Hopefully Trevor Lawrence's development and maybe rapport with him makes him a little bit better in the statistical categories. Number 3 wideout is DJ Chark Jr. This 6'4" guy, I mean, he is awesome, but again, maybe the development of our quarterback just didn't really get him the stats that we're looking for. He had 18 catches, 167 yards, and a touchdown. but I really have a good feeling about him this year. Hopefully Trevor Lawrence can continue to develop and get him the ball. Our slot receiver is 3-year guy Adrian Hardy, 6'2", out of Louisiana Tech. This guy does very, very well with Trevor Lawrence. They got a very good rapport. He had 44 catches, 634 yards, and a touchdown. I'm really hoping he can kind of step up this year and show why he has that superstar trait. 5th wide receiver on our depth chart is 3-year pro Damon Hazelton. He did get a little bit of playing time last year, but didn't really kind of come into his own. But again, Trevor Lawrence was not good last year. He did end up having 2 catches for 12 yards. Really like him because of his route running. Hopefully he's able to get open and maybe he sneaks up the depth chart again this year. Our 6th wide receiver is 3-year pro Justin Jefferson, who is pretty much here just to be returning kicks and punts. But if he's able to continue to develop, he was a deep threat the year before last. So maybe he's able to get on the field and show his explosive nature. Last year he didn't have any catches, but he had a 22.8 kick return average and a 6.3 punt return average. He has 97 speed. I think we have to utilize him. And then filling out the wide receiver depth chart is going to be rookie Lincoln Fields, 6'3". But this guy was very impressive last year at Arkansas. 89 catches, 1,504 yards, and 11 touchdowns. If he's able to come close to that in the preseason, you're going to see him really kind of go up in the depth chart. He has 90 speed, he has a good frame, he's kind of a DJ Shark prototype, but maybe he's able to get on the field and show us some promise than why we drafted him in the 2nd round. Now let's head to tight ends as we have starting guy Mike Gesicki, 6'6", out of Penn State. He's up to a star development, and really his stats have proven that he is a star in this league. Last year he had 82 catches, 742 yards, and 5 touchdowns. If we're able to find him in the middle of the field, Trevor Lawrence has a security blanket. Go to him, he will catch everything. And then backing him up is going to be 4-year pro Josh Oliver that we got in free agency away from Jacksonville. 6'5" frame, 26 years old, vertical threat archetype. This guy was excellent and was in the Pro Bowl last year. He had 68 catches, 763 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I think a lot of dual set tight end sets we can end up putting out on the field because this guy will be able to stretch the field just like Gesicki. 3rd on the depth chart is 2-year pro Trey McKitty. This guy not having a lot of playing time, but when he was in the game, he was making catches everywhere. He had 7 catches, 99 yards. Very excited to give him a tight end 3 spot. He could push for the tight end 2 spot. He's got that good vertical threat scheme. 4th on the depth chart is going to be rookie Donald Buckley, who we got in the 2nd round with the 60th overall pick. He is a blocking archetype, so he doesn't quite fit our archetype, but he was definitely one of the better tight ends in this class. He had 63 catches, 666 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He can still kind of catch, but his attributes not looking too great there. Might end up putting him in with the big sets and some of those real big power back situations. 5th tight end is going to be 1-year pro Jalen Teague out of Penn State. He didn't get any playing time, but he was an absolute monster in the preseason, having 11 catches, 176 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He has great over-the-top speed for a tight end. Maybe his overall isn't that great, but he seems to be able to put it behind him when he plays in the preseason. And then filling out our depth chart is Chandler Gore, the 1-year pro out of Idaho State. Again, he's a developmental guy, so I'm not too crazy, but I loved what I saw in the preseason from him. He had 3 catches, 32 yards. Another guy that has really good top-end speed as a tight end. Hopefully he's able to go out and ball out in the preseason. And now we switch gears to the offensive line. Our starting left tackle is going to be Penei Sewell, the 2-year pro out of Oregon. This guy played in every game last year and gave up 4 sacks. That was it. This guy is phenomenal pass blocking and pretty good run blocking as well. I expect big things from this guy in the future. Starting on the right side is going to be 1-year pro Sidney Patrick out of USF. He got beat up a little bit there his rookie year, but he was going against some really good pass rushing ends like TJ Watt, Khalil Mack, Von Miller, all those good guys. He did give up 11 sacks, but I think this year is going to be even better for him. I think he's going to be at 80 overall, and I think he's going to start really becoming a dominant right tackle for us. Starting at left guard, we no longer have Joe Thuney, but we're actually going to move our starting center, Connor Williams, over to the guard position. But 5-year pro, didn't really have the greatest year last year. He ended up giving up 6 sacks at the center position, but we couldn't get Thuney back. We're going to give him a chance in that guard spot. If he struggles, I think we might end up dipping down into Trey Smith or any of those guys that are ready to go. At the right guard position, we are going to let 3-year pro Darren Paulo have his chance once again. Last year, he actually did much better. He only gave up 6 sacks, and I mean, we were getting sacked up and down. I think he could be a very, very good guard. This is the last year on his rookie contract. He's going to have to impress me this year. Starting at center is going to be rookie Tommy Saxton. He was our first-round pick, 8th overall, so we are expecting big things from him out of Vandy. Hopefully he's able to be our center of our future and our centerpiece of our offensive line going forward. He gave up 5 sacks last year. That was it for not a very good Vandy team. I think he's going to be something special. It's just a shame that he only has normal development. And now let's see who is backing them up. So for the tackle position, it is going to be 1-year pro Amani Dillon, who is still on the books and I think can be a very, very good starter if any injuries do occur. He didn't play last year, so oh well, it is what it is. Well, he did play 3 downs, but I think with his 91 strength, he could be a dominant blocker if we ever needed him to get in there. At the backup guard position, we have 2-year pro Trey Smith, who is slowly developing up into possible starter spot. Really depends on how Connor Williams does this year if we reach out and try to resign Trey Smith. He didn't play last year at all, but I think with his 85 strength and his relatively good blocking attributes, I think he could be a very good guard, but we really have to see development from him to really get a gauge on that. And then also vying for backup snaps is going to be right guard Colin Cooper, the rookie out of Clemson, 6'3", 333 pounds. The boy is a monster, but he did give up 5 sacks last year in Clemson. We took him with a 3rd-round pick, 85th overall. Kind of expecting good things from him, but again, I don't really need it. So if he's able to produce, he's able to produce. And then the backup at center is going to be 2-year pro Josh Meyer, 6'5", 313 pounds out of Ohio State. This guy could be very special, but again, we took Tommy Saxton, so he might end up moving to guard, to tackle, see what else he can do well. That 77 strength is probably not great on the outside, but as a backup center, he's definitely welcome with this team. Now let's head to the strength of the team, that number 2 defense. Starting at left end, it's going to be 3-year pro Chase Young, the 81 overall stud. This guy was fantastic last year. 9 sacks, 17 TFLs, 59 tackles, and a forced fumble. We have no problems on defense, and he's part of the reason why. But another strong piece is right end Christian Wilkins, the 4-year pro out of Clemson. 82 overall, however, this is a contract year for him. Last year, 9 sacks, 15 TFLs, 58 tackles, and a forced fumble. This guy was really, really good starting at right end for his first time. I'm thinking that we might need to really pony up and pay him some money to keep him around. But if we pay him all that money, we might not be able to pay starting defensive tackle Lorenzo Neal, the 3-year pro out of Purdue. This guy clogging up the middle is really good. He had 1 sack, 9 TFLs, 33 tackles, and a fumble recovery. Now, he kind of got subbed in by Sweat a lot on passing downs. Maybe this year we allow him to get after the quarterback and see what he's got. And speaking of our backup right end, Josh Sweat, the 5-year pro out of Florida State. This guy surprised everybody. He ended up having 7 sacks, 12 TFLs, 37 tackles, enough to where we decided to dive into our pocketbooks and pay the man. But he's really just a backup and then a rusher when needed. but he is very, very good. We expect big things from him again this year. But fighting for some backup snaps is going to be rookie left end Adam Beard, the 6'4", 254-pounder out of Clemson. This guy was great last year. 6 sacks, 14 TFLs, 54 tackles, and a forced fumble. We drafted him in the second round. We expect second round production this year. But then we also have second round pick rookie Hudson Whitman, the 6'3", 305-pounder out of Purdue. We were really excited to get him. He had a great junior year, 11 sacks, 28 TFLs, 94 tackles, and a forced fumble. He might end up pushing a couple people for spots, but I'm really excited to see how he translates over to the NFL level. And then again, we also have right end rookie Arsenio McDonald, the 6'4", 310-pounder out of SMU. This guy got hurt last year, but everybody expected big things from him. We ended up getting him in the third round, 1.5 sacks, 8 TFLs, 34 tackles, but he's coming off of a torn ACL, so hopefully he's able to recover and show us what he has in preseason. And then we have a couple of draft picks from last year. We have one-year pro left end Mike Wright out of Temple. Last year in the preseason, he didn't necessarily really impress anybody, but he did have a sack and 7 tackles. Really expecting him to kind of show us something in the preseason. If he doesn't, he's back on the practice squad. Or do we allow that practice squad spot to go to one-year pro left end Sean Foote out of Tulane? He played just a little bit better than Mike Wright. He only had half a sack, but he had 2 TFLs and 4 tackles. I'm going to give him a lot of preseason time and see if he can continue to progress. But let's head to the defensive tackles, as we have number 2 defensive tackle, the 8-year pro out of Fresno State, Tyler Davidson, who we ended up getting out of free agency from Atlanta. He didn't play a lot last year. He had 3 TFLs, 13 tackles, but I'm kind of expecting him to kind of hold up the run defense there along with Lorenzo Neal. But pushing him could be rookie defensive tackle Jadon Goddard, who we got in the first round, 29th overall, 6'5", 302-pounder out of Oregon. This guy could be very, very good. He had 5 sacks, 19 TFLs, 47 tackles, and 1 forced fumble. I'm kind of expecting him to push Davison for some snaps, and if he gets the starting nod, then he gets the starting nod. And then again, we have holdover 3-year pro defensive tackle Bravion Roy as well. He didn't get any playing time, but in the preseason he had half a sack, 3 TFLs, 5 tackles. I expect him being that big body to continue to clog up the middle. Maybe this year he continues to make the team and shows me something. And then we also have 2-year pro defensive tackle Vayan Moala, 6'7", 315 pounds out of Utah. Didn't really get the stats that I was looking for last year in the preseason after having a great preseason the year before. He had 1 TFL, 4 tackles. I expect big things from him, but if he's not able to perform in the preseason, we don't have a spot for him. Now we head to our linebacking core, just an absolute beast of a squad. We're starting here with left outside linebacker Raekwon McMillan, the 6-year pro out of Ohio State. He is just a complete stud. 109 tackles, 12 TFLs, 5.5 sacks. We need to get him a little bit better in pass coverage to kind of shut down the tight ends just a little bit better this year. Joining him on the outside is surprise superstar Merlin Robertson, who ended up really becoming the pass rusher that we wanted him to be. He had 74 tackles, 14 TFLs, 12.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. He wasn't really able to get into the sub linebacker package, so we ended up putting him as a rush right end, and he dominated with those 12.5 sacks. What an absolute stud this guy is. And then starting in the middle is Captain Jerome Baker, the 5-year pro out of Ohio State. Was McMillan's running mate at Ohio State. Now here with the Dolphins, he is an absolute stud. He had 175 tackles, 24 TFLs, 2 sacks, 2 picks, and a forced fumble. He is insanely good. We just have to get him better in the coverage. We need to be able to slow down the tight ends. Backing up those guys, the number 2 middle linebacker is Lakia Henry, the 2-year pro out of Ole Miss. Just a rock-solid guy here. 49 tackles, 4 TFLs, and a force or a fumble recovery. He could be very good, but our money is starting to run a little bit thin. Not sure if we're going to be able to pay him past these years on his contract. But the guy that's going to be challenging him as the number 2 middle linebacker is Avery Williamson, the 9-year pro out of Kentucky. We ended up getting him in free agency away from the New York Jets. But last year, 81 tackles, 4 TFLs, 6.5 sacks. This guy can still do it at a very high level, even though he's regressing a little bit. And then we also have 2-year pro Hamza Nasirildeen, who might be better as a strong safety, but we haven't really figured that out yet. 6'4", 226 pounds. Really good year last year in the minimal playing time he got. He got 4 tackles. It was like a couple of downs. But he can go anywhere. He's very, very quick, 87 speed. Good tackler at 83, but his zone coverage is actually not that great. And then we also have holdover right outside linebacker Bryce Sterk, the 3-year pro out of Montana State. This guy, I love him to death, but I don't think he will ever be a starter in this league. I mean, if injuries happen, then maybe. But he had 14 tackles and 1 TFL without starting a game. That's pretty intense on special teams. I like keeping him around. And now we head to the secondary, starting with the cornerbacks. Our big one here is 5-year pro Jair Alexander. This guy was a Pro Bowler last year, rightfully so. He ended up having 11 interceptions, which is one of the top numbers in the modern era, really since 1981. He's able to get everywhere. He was intense. 90 tackles, 8 TFLs, 11 pass defense, a fumble or a forced fumble. This guy is very, very good. He's very dangerous when the ball is coming his way. At the number 2 spot, we have holdover 7-year pro Xavier Howard. Guy that's starting to regress a little bit, but people are still afraid to throw his way. He had 1 pick, 72 tackles, 7 TFLs, and 7 pass defense. He still has really, really good attributes, and hopefully can continue to shut down with his great defense. Our slot corner this year is going to be 2-year pro Avery Young. He kind of was the slot, and then last year ended up really becoming the number 4 cornerback, but we didn't go after Mike Hilton this year, so now the slot corner is back on him. But he had 50 tackles and 2 TFLs. He has great speed. I'm hoping that he can continue to cover very well in that slot spot. And then 4th cornerback is 6-year pro Tease Tabor. We are familiar as he did end up playing with us for a little bit, not last year, but the year before. But with San Francisco last year, he had 14 tackles, 3 pass defense. This guy can play, and I think as a number 4 cornerback, he fits in very well. And then we also have 1-year pro Rowan Meredith out of Penn State. He actually looked really good in the preseason, got a little bit of playing time this year with some injuries. He ended up having 12 tackles, 2 pass defense. Kind of still keeping my eye on him and seeing if he can be a number 3 or number 4 cornerback of a future. And then we have 4th round pick rookie Michael Collier out of Louisville. A guy who had a great year. 3 picks, 48 tackles, 4 TFLs, 7 pass defense, and a fumble recovery. He's got good 91 speed. He might end up becoming that future slot corner, maybe even a starter in the future. And then we also have 3-year pro Jalen Thompson out of South Alabama. Guy that really doesn't get any playing time, but every time in the preseason when he plays, he looks really good. He's got 93 speed, had 10 tackle, 1 TFL in the preseason. Kind of expecting big things for him, and he might end up making this team. Now we head to the safety spots where we have free safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, the 5-year pro captain. This guy is just an absolute stud. He had 1 pick, 123 tackles, 11 TFLs, a sack, and a forced fumble. Really number 3 ranked free safety in the league. He could be even better this year. Backing him up is 1-year pro free safety Arsenio Shea. In limited time last year that he got to play, he did have 8 tackles, 1 TFL, and a fumble recovery because of a block kick. But he could possibly be a very good safety in the future, but I don't think we want to stray away from Minkah Fitzpatrick. At strong safety, we have returning starter Xavier McKinney, the 2-year pro out of Alabama. A guy that is really kind of everywhere, but his coverage is lacking every so often. He had 2 picks, 93 tackles, 7 TFLs, 1.5 sack, and 4 pass defense. He is very, very good, but I'm not sure if we're going to have the money to retain him. Backing him up is 1-year pro Quincy Shepard. When he got on the field, he was amazing. 10 tackles, 3 TFLs, but he was everywhere in pass coverage as well. This guy could be a very good, strong safety in the future. Keeping my eye on him. And then we have 1-year pro Dwayne Strickland out of Oklahoma State, who was on the practice squad last year, but preseason he actually played pretty well. 12 tackles, 2 TFLs, 1 pass defense. His speed concerns me a little bit if he's ever to start, but if he has another good preseason, he might end up sneaking on the team. And then we have 7th round pick rookie Heath Steele out of Tulane, a guy that actually had a very good year but was overlooked because of the competition he was going against. He had 1 pick, 47 tackles, 3 TFLs, a half a sack, and 4 pass defense. This guy could be very good, but I'm kind of waiting on him and seeing what happens in preseason. And to special teams we go. We have incumbent starter kicker Jet Turner, the 2-year pro out of Stanford. A guy who has made the Pro Bowl the last 2 years, 31 of 35 for 88% clip with a long of 55. Again, his kick power is not great, so he's not really getting those real long field goals, but with a better offense, maybe we can give him a better shot at making some under 40s. And then we also have 6-year pro punter Matt Hawk out of Arizona State, a guy that continues to punt the living crap out of the ball. 54.1 average with a 45.9 net average and 24 inside of the 20. He has great power. His accuracy needs to go up because he has way too many touchbacks, but again, a great punter nonetheless. All right, now that you have met the team, we are going to get through the preseason. We're going to go over the preseason stats and any cuts or signings that we do afterwards. So I'll see you guys after the preseason. All right, so we finished up the preseason 2-2. Our offense looked very, very good this preseason. We were actually 10th in the NFL, which is just awesome. Our defense, however, slid a little bit. They were 17th. But again, I had a lot of backups playing instead of starters. So I think we're actually going to slow roll this season. I think we are actually going to do the 3-week with a showcase game in between, because I kind of want to see how this offense and Byron Leftwich can really see if we can be an offense that is worth reckoning. I think it's very good. As you see the final two, 31-30, 33-30. We might be able to put up some points this year, so it might be just a bit more exciting. But let's take a look at the preseason stats. So the good part about this preseason is we didn't throw many interceptions, only 2 between these 4 guys. Tyree Jackson actually looked incredible with 128.5 rating, 28 of 38, 3 touchdowns, 353 yards. Dave Sands actually struggled in the first 2 games, but really put it on in the next 2 as he finished up with a 96.3 rating, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick, 338 yards. Anthony Brown, not that great. 73.4, could not find the end zone, ended up throwing a pick, had 279 yards. And Trevor Lawrence, who didn't actually play all that much, couldn't find the end zone, but big thing here, he didn't throw an interception, which is going to be huge, with 151 yards and a 73 rating. As for the rushing stats, Trey Ragas actually led us with 94 yards on 28 attempts, 3.4 average, and a touchdown. Philip Lindsay didn't play much again, 17 attempts for 56 yards, a 3.3 average, and a touchdown. AMJ, 16 for 52, couldn't find the end zone, but a 3.3 average. Probably going to make the team. Deontay Swain didn't look too bad, 16 for 51, 3.2 average. Detarvius Whitlow, 14 catches, 44 yards, and we actually have a trade offer for him that I'm probably going to end up taking. Nyheim Hines didn't play much, 9 carries for 26, a 2.9 average. Trevor Lawrence got some rushing stats, Tyree did, Brown did. Look at Dave Sands there rushing for 3 yards. That a boy. And now over to the receiving. Lincoln Fields actually very much surprised me. 13 catches, 173 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was able to make deep plays. He was able to make short plays. So very excited about him. Justin Jefferson, 12 catches, 130 yards. Damon Hazleton, again, does well in the preseason. 13 catches, 123 yards, and a score. DJ Shark actually did pretty well this preseason. Maybe this is the scheme that he needs to be in. 7 catches, 104 yards, 26 average. Oh, 26 average per game. Oy, my bad. 14.9 is what I was trying to look at. Adrian Hardy, 6 catches, 91 yards for 15.2 average. That's beautiful. Donald Buckley showing that he can actually catch. 9 catches, 88 yards. So maybe I was a little too early on saying that he's not going to be able to catch the ball. Jalen Tigg, actually just a red zone threat for us. 6 catches, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, he does what he needs to do, but I'm not sure. I think we have too many tight ends. I don't think he's going to be able to make the team this year. Kiki Kuti, 10 catches, 83 yards, 8.3 average. Need to get him downfield. Trey McKitty, 5 catches, 65 yards. Chandler Gore showing he can catch the ball. 7 for 53 and a score. Whitlow had 3 catches for 45. Ragas, 2 catches for 29. Swain had 2 catches out of the backfield for 18. Oliver had a catch for 11. Parker 2 for 8. McFarland 1 for 7. And Philip Lindsay 1 for 7. As for the blocking, you can see here, not a lot of sacks allowed. Connor Williams did end up giving 1. Amani Dillon, our backup tackle, gave up 2. But as you can see, 233 snaps. And Tommy Saxton gave up 2. He played the entire preseason, so I expected him to at least give up a couple. 2 in 4 games. Not bad, but can definitely be improved on. As for the defense, Williamson led us in tackles. Lakia Henry with 24. Collier 18. Young 17. 15 for Rowan. Quincy 14. 11 Nasiril Dean. 11 Robertson. 10 Tabor. And I'm just going to kind of go all the way down because we had a ton of defensive guys playing. And, I mean, majority of them contributed. So it didn't look too bad, but, I mean, our defense does need to pick up a little bit. TFLs, Williamson, Henry, Goddard, and Beard all had the most. Goddard actually played really well. Beard played pretty well as well, but not sure if Hudson Whitman's actually a better rusher, and I think that's what we're going to utilize him as. As sacks, we didn't really have that many. Williamson had 1, Wright had 1, Robertson, McMillan, Foote, Wilkins, and Strickland with Young all had a half. Interceptions, we didn't have many. We had 1 this preseason. That was by Avery Williamson, our backup linebacker. So, I mean, we need to be able to get some turnovers. Jet Turner was 12 of 12 in preseason. Definitely need to score a little bit more touchdowns than field goals. We can't have him kicking 12 times in 4 games. That is not going to work, but he did hit a long of 54, so not too bad there. Matt Hawk was punting pretty well, 50.4 average with a 45.9 net. 3 inside the 20, but 4 touchbacks. Again, his accuracy not doing what it needs to be doing. Kick returns, Whitlow actually got the majority of them, 26.5 on the average. And then punt return wise, as you can see there, Whitlow again led us at 10.5. But, I mean, we have a trade offer for him, and we're probably going to end up taking it because we still have Jefferson, and I like him returning kicks. And the deal that was offered, we are going to be sending Jatarvius Whitlow to the Green Bay Packers for a 3rd round pick. Nothing too crazy there. He's actually going to be 3rd on their depth chart, but he wasn't performing for us, and I think AMJ is actually a better backup. Now, AMJ's contract is up at the end of the season, but we also have Trey Ragas as well, so we have plenty of running back depth. The Packers really wanted him for whatever reason. Maybe they needed a returner, and they gave us a 3rd round pick. So now is the worst time of the preseason where we're actually going to have to end up cutting some players. Now, it looks like we only have to cut 4 this time around, so that isn't too terrible. We have a lot of guys that need to go to the practice squad as well. Our first cut here is going to be Anthony Brown. Just didn't develop. He played decently well in preseasons, but he doesn't have a spot on this. We might end up actually taking 3 quarterbacks because of how well Tyree Jackson played, how poorly Trevor Lawrence has played, and Dave Sands actually did pretty well. We're also going to be cutting Vion Moala. Just could not really break in through that defensive tackle depth. No big deal. Just couldn't get it done. Sean Foote is going to go to the practice squad. I still like what he's doing for us. Deontay Swain is going to go to the practice squad. Jalen Teague. So this is a very interesting thing because I think he is a very, very good player. But I think we're actually going to put him on the practice squad this year, see how everything rolls out with our tight ends. Tyree Jackson's going to stay. He's going to be our third quarterback on the depth chart. And if Trevor Lawrence can't perform, then, you know, maybe he gets the starting nod over Dave Sands. Trey Ragas is going to stay as our power back. Chandler Gore is going to go to the practice squad. Bravion Roy. We don't really have a lot of depth at D tackle, so I think he is actually going to end up staying. This one is a little bit tougher. Jalen Thompson, I did just sign him, but I think with our depth that we have at cornerback, he's got good height, good speed, but I think we're actually going to have to end up cutting him here. We might end up re-signing him, depending, see exactly what happens. Dave Sands, we already know, is going to be our backup. Mike Wright, we are going to actually put him on the practice squad. With our left end depth, I think we're okay. Heath Steele is going to go to the practice squad as well. Eric Cannon stays. Michael Collier, question marks. I think we're actually going to put him on the practice squad as well. Colin Cooper, practice squad, easy. Arsenio McDonald, very interesting because he's stuck behind Josh Sweat, but I think we're actually going to put him on the practice squad and see how he develops for next year. Dwayne Strickland couldn't make the team this year. He's actually going to end up being cut. We have Heath Steele on the practice squad, so we don't need another strong safety. Rowan Meredith is going to stick it out. Trey McKitty is going to stick it out. Hudson Whitman. That one's a tough one. What are we going to do with Hudson Whitman? I think he's actually going to make it because of his rushing skill. Jaden Goddard is going to stick. Shea is going to be our backup. Anthony McFarland's going to stay. Hazelton's going to stay. Adam Beard is actually going to end up moving to the practice squad. He might end up getting picked up, but I mean, it is what it has to be at this point. I think with Hudson Whitman and Josh Sweat as our backups, I think we're good. Whitman's a little bit stronger in rushing the passer, which is huge in today's NFL because of how often people are passing. But let's take a quick look at our upgrades for this episode so far. Starting the upgrades here with starting left tackle Penei Sewell. We're actually going to put him into pass protector. Try to get him up to that scheme fit. He doesn't move up an overall. Maybe I should have got him to 80, but +2 awareness is pretty good. He plays very well. Starting right outside linebacker Merlin Robertson. We're going to go into power rusher. Hopefully we can get him as a scheme fit. We don't, but he does go up to a 78 overall and gets +2 tackle. Backup lineman Trey Smith will get one as well, and we're going to go into agile, get him up to a 75 overall. Might be knocking on the door of Connor Williams' job this year. Backup wideout and returner Justin Jefferson. We're going to go deep threat for him, get him up to a 73 overall. We're still going to 75 for him, hopefully this year. Damon Hazelton, we're going to go into slot, try to get him up to a 75 overall. He kind of was on the fringe of making this team, but he did. There you go, big guy. Go up to 71. And that's where we're going to stop this episode. And then when we come back, we will get through the first 3 weeks of the season. And we're going to be showcasing the kickoff game against the Oakland Raiders. Yeah, they're still in Oakland because this is Madden 20. But thanks again for watching. And as always, stay frosty. And I'll see you in the next episode. D.Knight out.
They thought it was a game till I came back with that win overtime. I've been working